Chile here with Sirius, Talis, Moon, Jupiter, our Saturn day. We are in Ron Arad Operation Marathon. I know. And this is Ascendant 28 degrees Cancer, 19 degrees Midheaven Aries. And I'm going to talk about the communication. And the technique I'm using, other than astrology, is taking a look at associatively what comes in the environment in the days preceding to me tending to that case. I look at astrology, I look at the environment, I look at the materia and see what things come up. First of all, for those of you who may not know, I am a, a an on a break academic researcher that looked into the body mind question, ESP, and um, and linguistics. But the first degree was linguistics, but um, I have been dealing with the topic of declassifying technologies so that we can make the invisible visible, so that we can have scientific evolution. Um, the topic of political assassination prevention, which I tended to use in astrology, when Uranus was on my lot of divination, opposing my 22 Mars. Also with water expands upon cooling, tending to the missing. Right now is my Neptune square Venus on that transit in Neptune. And I'm going to talk about what came up for the case of Ron Arad. I am not employed by any intelligence. I'm basically on um, I'm basically on welfare because I could not do corruption, and um, and in and because there are all types of um, there are all types of things that could be experimenting on civilians, targeting civilians, or researchers, and that creates situations where if people would try to, let's say, telepathically or psychically communicate with me, I may receive stuff, but I might not receive it in a particular way which I'm shown. Because one of the things to do with paperclip is that the action of the person is not always received at the individual in the same way or by the same. Let's just say if you press a button, does it make bird sound, or does it make, I don't know, a screeching sound? Um, and so I'm going to address particularly the topic of communication. Um, in a previous episode, I addressed the fact that I recorded an entire episode and that episode went missing. Things to do with the Hebrew word would be kesher, and the way that the signals for communication went into really weird configurations, and basically parts of communications going missing. What I received was Maidanic, which pertains to an alleged place where Ron Arad was held captive and tortured. And they claim that he was tortured to death, although others claim that by 1997 we still have evidence of Ron Arad being alive. Um, for the case of Yitzhak Rabin, there was the question of releasing um, basically people that were acting against Israel, um, which put Yitzhak Rabin in a complex position and may have led to um, contributed to be leading to his eventual assassination in 1995. Um, from the perspective of extortion cult logic, if Rabin would have shown himself to be benevolent, it would be seen as basically with extortion cult logic, it would be seen as a loser, but also they would point to assessing him because he would not go with the enslavement dogma of extortion cults. So, of course, Israel is preparing for elections, and I guess they really, really want to have the finding of Ron Arad. I addressed the fact that his Jupiter Spica conjunction um, is really about the fact that the training of whether it's the military people, the intelligence people, cannot be with rape and torture, and I addressed also the topic of water and water discipline. Um, Now let's caretake for an episode in that series on Beachwood as we proceed. Um, okay, I think both of them. Did I have a previous? I think this one. Okay. Particularly the topic of communication, communication being cut off, communication going missing, pages going missing and then found. Um, that was showing with the entire thing. Um, and also the first episode that I recorded literally went missing. Mercury retrograde, conjoining Sun in Pisces. The most important thing to emphasize is that the incentive to find Ron Arad along the years, um, if I try to think about the transits for the Israeli state, Pluto going through um, Pluto going through the fifth house now. At the 80s, Pluto was in Scorpio, which would be first or second house, and 1995, 6, 7, that would be the ingress of Pluto to Sag, and 2008, the ingress of Pluto to Capricorn. All of those carried important pivotal events in um, in the story. Um, I know the truth. I know. I know. I know. I know. I know. I say it to extortion cult logic. I know. Um, and Neptune ingressed into Aquarius 1996 7. To 2021, we had Pluto, Jupiter, Saturn, which was when Naftali Bennett said that it was another intelligence attempt to find Ron Arad. Sussly enough, prisoner X, which I had not looked at for several years because I was because of broadcasting from Israel, and I was I thought that this was a foreigner, and eventually it was an 8200 supposedly elite unit. Cannot call it elite unit after that. Intelligence unit, not because, well, let's just put it that way. 8200 should have completely striked until, particularly if we think about it as the security of the state. Um, I know, Uranus in the 10th house. Call me radical, but there's a reason why I'm called to talk about it, right? Um, and prisoner X was also um, killed in prison. There's no reason for a person to find himself dead in prison, with maximum security prison, military maximum security prison. Like, if we couldn't safeguard a person there, then probably um, then I wouldn't. Never mind. Um, yeah. Um, but this was the same year where we had an operation to find Ron Arad, and then COVID. Um, so, astrologically speaking, we can think about with Pluto cycles, the Neptune ingress 2012. I did not see anything coming from 2012, if I'm not mistaken, for the Ron Arad case. So I see it more as Pluto, the Neptune, although it arises when Neptune is on my Neptune square. On the other hand, Pluto is squaring my Venus, which could be a Pluto case, but why? But my Venus is in the third house, which can be the podcast, but but it's also my Neptune square, and then Venus is just conjoining my Neptune. So um, yeah, there was 2021 was also when I was um, basically escaping violence and doing a channeling experiment um, at the time. And for certain people, they may have received information that I went missing, but there was contact with me. Um, and recently it was about, I was sort of seeing kind of like people looking for, are you here, are you here, are you here? But then there was fear because, oh, this pertains to the Ron Arad case, because Ron Arad could have been, when people were looking for Ron Arad, he could have been wondering if it's the people that tried to target him or the people that actually want to help him. Now, in captivity, he could have been shown. For example, if I take a look at the case in English, then I see um, propaganda, okay, or hasbara, counter hasbara, um, that is basically saying Israel creates missing people for Israel, and Israel kills its missing people even for its genocidal mission or whatnot, and um, and he could have been shown such things in captivity. Um, and for example, he could have been. Um, I talked about the technique of torturing people without letting them die and without letting them. That was the Maidanic, perhaps, without letting them leave, and um, this technique creates Mark de Trolls. um, and I talked about. I think in this episode I talk about the fact that we would need to either this episode or a previous one, that we would need to that is something that would actually make Mark the Troll safe for children again, and for his own inner child as well, would be the same thing that people that exit captivity would need. Um, uh, and if Ron Arad is alive, then very naturally the same thing he would need, so not to be a danger to his, for example, grandchild. Um, yes, people, the retrieval of the missing. Uh, for the people that came back from captivity, a lot of them, and a lot of PTSD people became involved with criminal activity. Um, and so Ron Arad could have been even fearsome from the people that look for him, because not knowing if they were the ones that treasoned him or tortured him. For example, I would receive stuff like people that I know coming in energy and harming me. And I know often MK Ultra is the way they operate, it's their technique. But it's also when it comes to people that went through the physical rituals of ritual abuse, this actually happens, and um, and then the those that are in it would try to convince that everybody is in it, and because they hack nervous system and keep people in trauma, then yeah, all the things that I've been tending to, and this is where Ron Arad could have been fearing those who are looking for him, because he wouldn't know if they are going to torture him again, if they were a part of his being taken into captivity and imprisonment. Um, and yes, and also I have to emphasize that what came to me is that just like the water discipline was killing people, also the training for combat soldiers that were extreme torture, excruciating torture, and it would probably be supposed to model if they get caught in imprisonment or something like that. This is like water discipline. And because in real case, in real time, it could have been that he connected what he's been through as training at what he's been through in imprisonment, and then he became fearsome of uh, basically not only the state of Israel, but everyone around, whether it's his army people or so on and so forth. Again, this is speculation. I don't know. But these are all the things that could be triggered. And at any case, we have to have zero rape, zero slavery. And when they would try to traffic people in order to get clues about Ron Arad as intelligence activity, that doesn't yield true cohesion. And the good thing, it has Jupiter Spica. Jupiter was with Spica during the Me Too. So, yeah, I'm recording. Um, okay, let's hope that this uploads. Yeah. Um, this is also showing us how the um, dark occult or paperclip or Nazi-based occult based use in intelligence is basically preventing locating people like Ron Arad. And this is where the intelligence approaches that were tried. Oh my gosh, I actually predicted that Neptune in Aries is going to be that there is either intelligence fail, or that to do successful intelligence, it would show that the current was rape and slavery based rituals around military intelligence, that they do not yield the right information, they do not yield true cohesion. And this is exactly what happened for the case of Ron Arad, because it's Jupiter with Spica. They would try to rape and traffic people to try to get information. They don't, like, those are the type of things that they do in extortion code logic, and rape people for to send them to espionage, which is basically rape and torture of a person, and mind control, and calling it espionage and glorifying and mythicizing this, where in fact it is preventing. And the case for Ron Arad shows it, because it's Jupiter Spica. So Venus conjoining Neptune in Aries is calling for the value of sense of self as important to intelligence, which is exactly what is happening right now. And this is my Neptune square. I cannot make it up. I'm really, really grateful for Elijah. And she was trafficked woman for intelligence that was espionage uh, before the fall of USSR. She escaped to United States, and her testimony opened my eyes when I was sent to political assassination prevention to connect the many dots. Um, and this is something that keeps perpetuating global um, epic fails in sovereignty. Ron Arad case is causing Israel to look like it neglects its kidnaps people. Um, but the fact is that how should I say that? Israel has ascendant Venus and sun ruled by Venus. To me, straight Venus. That's and not only that, ascendant and next to speaker. That's why we don't have Ron Arad back. And okay, I talked about the feminization as degradation rituals. Um, I talked about it when I was writing in 2017, 16, 17. Okay, now let's see what else what else is arising when I take a look at the materia for one ad. I will try. Yes, he would be 60. He's 60. He is 67 years today. And now I'm basically trying to look at the picture and see what comes up with the picture. Okay, so 40 years for his imprisonment. It is soon as be Rao return. And no, not Rao return. Yes, our return. For example, during COVID, the 2021, this was, I think, his Rao reversal. It looks like to me that is not impossible because he's such good navigator and so intuitive that he's escaping even our intelligence. I don't know why. Perhaps the training that he went through in the army were something that reminded him of something. Because what came up when I recorded the first episode that went missing was 222 as I speak. I don't think there's any chance I'll manage to channel Ron Arad because I haven't done channeling in a while. You see a door. I see the same that I saw when I was going to psychologist um, after the Me Too, and he was uh, uh, he was under mind control, and something like MK Ultra, MK Often, and I used to see um, a door or my phone that looked like a door. A door open, door close is an astrology door is Mercury, but also a door can be gate. And I saw the door was missing, or the gate was missing. I don't know if the door was open or closed because it was black. And then the image was to my pointing to floaters. Again, please take it with a grain of salt. It is highly experimental. I'm not a professional channeler, um, so it's very experimental, trying different techniques. While I am myself dealing with a lot. By the way, my spine was aligning. Nee, nee. Mm-hmm. You see, again, but my mother thought that I said something, the communication thing. It keeps coming up. Okay. There is the why is this miscommunication coming up? Where was his Mercury again? I think it was Mercury Andromeda, but right now Mercury is Kazimi, retrograde. I don't know if Kazimi or just conjoining the Sun. So by the time Mercury turns direct, which is March 11, I think, um, when it reaches this point again, I will have more information. No, this is something in the Haag is associated, and the railway. Um, Mars degree 5, Royal degree, it can be Royal Army, Royal Aviation, Royal Navigation, Royal Airlines. Mm, but why the messages? Because his Mercury is ruled by the ruler of Neptune. Neptune, well. And messages can go missing, missing and reappear. Old messages can be dematerialized. Yes, and his Ketu is in between my Venus and Mercury. So this is also the observation point bias, where the omens can go. And it took me a couple of days to materialize. Then I'm called to look at this case. Usually, when something is happening in the news or something like that, I would see two omens, and sometimes it would take a while. Like I would see the omens, and then I would see the news. Um, he was captured in Maidan, and then I was saying Maidan. I think a couple of days ago, I was like Maidan, Maidanic. Um, but for Maidanic, Maidanic was also for war captives. And this is where Ron Arad was tortured, according to intelligence findings. Mm. Again, I'm called to say, but for any country, but does not abolish weapons slavery on all frontiers and non-frontier civilians and non-civilian, then basically what it means is that with infiltration, all these things where he could be afraid of those who look for him, because those could be people that harmed him. All of that can be happening. It's showing the Achilles heel of, in that case, Israeli intelligence, but also Israeli country. And the connection to what orders, maybe Templars, maybe other, but everything that is extortion called logic. And so the big achievement that they want to all the time have is to find Ron Arad. The more that they look into that, the more people, I guess, are exposed to the truth. Okay, and cannot not connect the dots. Because it's impossible to kidnap a person like Ron Arad without the training that was by torture and rape of soldiers. And no, it does not prepare them for the possibility of being caught in captivity. Um, and this was something that very clearly saw, um, that it's like the water discipline. The water discipline, uh, the, the people thought um, that are not water discipline as it is to drink enough water, which by the way, over drinking water can also kill, but the water discipline, which meant no water for training and it killed people. Same is with rape and torture. Because it causes person to continuously be susceptible to loss of sense of self, and is basically creating mind controlled slaves, not sovereign soldiers. Sovereign soldiers do not yield. Uh, Soldiers that are not sovereign do not yield sovereignty for the country. And countries not sovereign, we see big problem. They will not be able to understand what happened with him without acknowledging those things, and I think probably a lot of people already see it. I would not be surprised if prisoner X foresaw some things like that. And because it's a extortion cults connected with Epstein list, with oil companies, um, what can I say? It's an entire culture that created this disaster, and it seems to be that even if Ron Arad is hearing, whether now or in the past, of people looking for him, he's afraid to answer them. He's not sure they're not coming to hurt him, and because he's such a great intuitive person, he could be not wrong. Because they could try to reprogram him. Ehud Barak, as I speak. Yeah. Could try to reprogram him, which means that as he is found, they could try to torture him to make him forget what he was told or what he saw. And then he didn't want to come back. He wanted to come back to the family, but he was in this Maidanic place, um, and if he didn't die there, um, and this is a perception from the funding of what is oil companies and stuff like that, the funding of that classified project things, that they see people and civilians as expendable and leaders as expendable. And he was seen as expendable. Um, and astrologically speaking, yes, Moon is square in Pluto right now. Both the case of prisoner X in 8200, yes, was up until that case elite unit of intelligence, and the Ron Arad case exposed something that can no longer be ignored. Like if 73 and 2023 wasn't enough, but it's But for those that thought that the Me Too went too far, the Me Too exposed this failure in the training of the intelligence. Um, it exposed the Epstein cult like, and um, yeah, and this is the square. This is the square between the moon, which is good for dissolving, but for protection from deceptions, and the Pluto, which is ruled by the Saturn in Aries. They're basically trying to, the global power tries to limit sovereignty. And Chiron Andromeda, which is curating the wounds around the kidnapped and the missing. And so, people, they can't be, raping girls in Thailand, going to parties in Epstein, going to this, going to that, trafficking people, and then finding a person with this chart. Doesn't go together. Doesn't go together. Neptune is, for cold cases of missing people, Neptune is holistic healing. If we have to look at the bigger picture, we have to make place for the missing, we have to curate. And it's through loss there can be miraculous healing. But they try to sacrifice more people and more people and more people. That's not the way to find. Try to make it an ego thing. Now, would they eventually find a couple of bones and say, "Oh, but we found Ron Arad"? They might. um, Charon is opposing Ron Arad's Jupiter. And it tells us that the wound in our intelligence regarding the bringing back the missing people, we need to heal it, to heal our sovereignty, but it is opposing the chair there, which is a tension between the wish to bring back Ron Arad and justice. Because if to bring back Ron Arad we raped and trafficked and on the way murdered many children to do dealing in all these Epstein Islands for the possibility of a clue of an information. Okay, I'm just assuming that there is no infiltration that holds Ron Arad. Okay, then and the people need to know that. I said that this Jupiter is about to go direct. It went retrograde on Procyon. I said with Procyon, let's say let's say if we are invaded and colonized, then to release from the colonization, we need to release from our own native beliefs, lineage, oppression within of ourselves towards ourselves. That's exactly the case. To bring back from captivity, we need to heal the people captive going through ritual abuse. Right now, we need to abolish ritual abuse as military training, just as we wouldn't send soldiers without water. And I will tell you even so much. Even to know if Ron Arad is dead or alive, we need to do this to even know that. That is the great missing that. And at the same time to know the torturers are created by being tortured, basically by ritual abuse. But the good news with Jupiter is always benevolent. When we tend to that, when we abolish these practices, the kidnapped people or the information regarding kidnapped people like Ron Arad, it will come as like magnet, because that's true cohesion. Jupiter is exalted in Cancer. Okay, so I want that to be the takeaway. Even can I try to reach aware of, and you see that I'm looking, trying to receive, trying to this, trying to that. But again, I'm called to talk about this. Again, I'm called to talk about this. Again, why? Because it's blocking the view. Extortion cults, rape and slavery, ritual abuse is blocking the view to find the missing.